My name is Pastor John Mark. I'm one of the pastors here at this First Mennonite Church, Prima Iglesia Menonita. I'm honored that the Community Alliance has asked this church to host this town hall event to stop the hate. So you may be wondering, who are we? I'm sure I'm looking out at a lot of faces and I'm recognizing many who come to this church and many who've been at Reedley Peace Center that meets in the fellowship hall on our campus. But let me tell you a little bit about us. We are, this church is Mennonite, part of the Anabaptist faith that's split from the Catholics around the Reformation on the principles of nonviolence, adult baptism, and communal mutual support. This old church was built in 1906 by a bunch of farmers who were fleeing from Eastern Europe, fleeing a military draft. We are not affiliated with the Mennonite Brethren Church just down the block. I know we share a name, but we're two different entities. And so today, about 20 years ago, we decided to be a part of, to merge with a Hispanic Bible study, to become one church, both English-speaking white people and bilingual-speaking Latino people, being one church together. Today, this Community Alliance is here because of our relationship with the Reedley Peace Center that was founded by a Bible study here at this church. The Reedley Peace Center is a group that has protested the Second Iraq War, been friends of Jesse Morrow Mountain, and generally advocated for LGBTQ, immigration rights, climate change, and other pressing issues to our community and our world. And so I am glad you all are here, that our church is filled with people who care about Reedley and want to make it a better place. I hope this church can be one of those places that we can meet together to discuss the issues affecting our community, and that this church may be a supporter of all of you and all that you do as you struggle to stop the hate, or other things like we like to call justice work. Now I'd like for us to say a little prayer to get our hearts and minds ready to discuss these important issues. Please pray with me, if you are wanting to. You who open doors and dismantle barriers, open our hearts to speak truth to one another, that we might live in full truth, that we might live as neighbors and friends, no longer strangers and enemies. Open our hearts to the transforming power of love, that we might forgive and reconcile, making peace with one another, and that we might be a people of love, one body and one spirit, to tell about God's grace to the whole world. We pray in the name of the one who walked among us as brother and friend. Amen. Now I'd like to turn it over to Darren Miller, who will help orient us to why we are here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Mark. Before we get into the details of this evening, I'm Dr. Darren Miller. I serve as a board member with the San Joaquin Valley Media Alliance. I'll tell you a little bit more about us as we're going through this. But before we go any further, I want to call up Beatrice, who has a very important announcement for our Spanish-speaking audience.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Beatrice. I'm here from Linguistica, Interpreting and Translation Services, along with my colleague Cristina. And I want to make an announcement in Spanish for people who are here who only speak Spanish. Para los que hablan español solamente tenemos servicio de interpretación simultánea al español. Si hay alguno de ustedes que todavía no recibió un dispositivo para la interpretación, por favor diríjanse a la mesa de atrás, donde está Cristina, que está levantando la mano, y ahí pueden recoger su dispositivo. Al finalizar este evento, les pedimos que por favor lo devuelvan a la misma mesa donde lo recibieron. Muchas gracias y que pasen una muy buena tarde. Thank you very much.
Gracias muchísimos. She wanted me to do the announcement in Spanish. I told her that my Spanish is very bad. So thank you, Beatrice, for that announcement. Again, thank you everyone for coming this evening. For those of you who don't know who I am, I've been working in K-12 education in the Fresno metropolitan area for the last 33 years. So education and teaching is part of what I do. And as with all of my classes, most of you are going to miss out on the blessing. You guys know what the blessing is this evening? On the front row, we had $100 bills taped underneath the seat. And because you guys all sitting in the back, you guys are going to miss out on those. So that's just a little humorous play. So tonight, just to make sure we're all in the same place, the same reference point, tonight we're going to talk about ways of stopping hate, eliminating hate out of our lives, out of our verbiage, out of our internet, and we're going to talk through some suggestions and some ideas of some things that are impacting the community here in Reedley, which then permeates and impacts us as a whole throughout the county. And so, a little history. The San Joaquin Valley Media Alliance applied for a grant with the California Library Services about a year ago. We were fortunate enough to receive that grant. And part of the work that we committed to doing is to having 4 town hall meetings. Our first town hall meeting was held over in the community of Huron and around the issues there of the community wanting to have their own high school. The students there have been bused for the last 30, 40 plus years over to Kalinga, which creates a huge disadvantage for those students during their high school years. For those of you who have been reading, if you've been reading in the Community Alliance and other papers, there's been a lot of movement since we had that meeting out there towards Huron having their high school and maybe even having their own district out there. And so although we can't, I'm not going to say that San Joaquin Valley Media Alliance made it happen, I do know that we are committed to supporting and telling the story of that community so that their voices are heard. Town Hall number 2 was held in the metropolitan area of Fresno. We focused on collaboration. And so we had about a dozen community groups that were there. We had panel discussions from the different entities, members from the different organizations that were there, talking about ways that they are impacting our community and working towards stopping the hate in their individual capacities. Successful event, we probably had about 150 people there. Town Hall number 3 was in the community of Madera, centered around some of the issues that were there with some of our indigenous communities that are there, some issues that they're having with just social justice types of issues that are there in the Madera area. Very successful event as well. And that brings us to this evening. This is Town Hall number 4. And if you guys know anything about geography, you can see we were in the west part of Fresno County to start. We were in the metropolitan area. And that second one, we were kind of in the north, although we bled over into Madera for number 3. And it was important to us that we come out to the east part of the county and make sure that we hear the voices of this particular area. And we decided, with some help of some of you Reedley, what is it, Reedley Knights? Reedleyans? I don't know what the proper term is. Those of you who are coming from Reedley to welcome us out here. So that's the trail of how we got to this point here. Subsequently, we've applied for another grant with the Library Services. I believe we were issued that grant as well. And so we're in the formation now for the fall of doing the follow-up work to the information, the collaborations that we put together over these 4 town halls. And so you're going to be hearing more and more development as we're going into the fall about putting in the second phase of what we're doing. So that's the San Joaquin Valley Media Alliance and how we got to this point where we are now. With that, we're going to make some adjustments in our scheduling because we're missing one of our people, the most important speakers probably of the evening. I shouldn't say important, most impactful speaker of this evening is not quite here with us yet. And so it is my honor. One of the issues that was identified by the planning committee was around immigration. And that was some of the same issues that were talked about and discussed at the Madera on Town Hall number 3. And so it's my pleasure to bring up Giselle Gasca, who's going to do a presentation for us around immigration issues. They're kind of short. There you go.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Giselle Gasca, and I am the California State Program Director with Poder Latinx. We are a civic and social justice organization dedicated to empowering our community and construct political power to generate a change in our communities and within our families, to win on social issues such as immigration, economic, and environmental justice. Before we get started, I'd like to ask you all to repeat after me, if that's okay. Hate is not welcome in our community. Hate is not welcome in our community. Hate is not welcome in California. Hate is not welcome in California. Hate is not welcome in our nation. Hate is not welcome in our nation. Thank you. Did we lose the sound? Can you all hear me? No. I think we lost the sound. Okay, where are we back on? Yes. 1, 2, 3. Testing? No? Are we good? One, 2, 3. Testing. Can y'all hear me?
It sounds very low.
Very low? Okay. So I think, can you all hear me okay? Yes? No? You can bear with us. We'll try to adjust the sound.
It's just very close.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can turn it up on the board.
You can bear with us one. Oh, there we go. We're back on. Yes, so thank you all for that. As I mentioned, hate is not welcome in our community. Hate is not welcome in California. As we all know, our state is vast and diverse, and it thrives on our immigrant population from far and wide. Many do not like this change, but through legislative action and civic engagement, we can transform the landscape of policies that impact our communities here. Several bills are currently running through our state legislature in Sacramento to ensure the safety and protection of immigrants, such as protection for non-citizens who have experienced extreme cases of domestic violence or are seeking emergency asylum to access federal resources, repealing the state's ability to use the information and resources to expedite or conduct deportation hearings, also extending critical legal services to immigrant minors, extending income assistance to workers excluded from unemployment compensation benefits, and this is one of the ways that we can use our political power to go against hate. We need to engage with our lawmakers on provisions like these to ensure that our community's voices are being heard. At Poder Latinx, we understand the importance of voting in each and every election, and for that reason, we run year-round voter registration and issue-based campaigns to promote civic involvement across our community. Our community here in the Central Valley is very diverse, as I mentioned, and is swiftly changing. And with that, many folks feel intimidated by the polarizing political climate and attacks that we've seen and we've heard of. Poder Latinx encourages our community to always be aware of your surroundings but to embrace the changing political climate and nature of the area. So as the Central Valley is more political significant, there will be more activity in the region where more people will be coming to your doors with clipboards and asking what seems like to be very personal questions in order to advance the political participation in the region. So with that being said, I do want to mention and I want to emphasize that elections come with consequences, and I think that's something we've seen over the years. And because we live in California, sometimes we believe that voting will not make a change, but we know that this is wrong. We have competitive districts, especially here in the Central Valley, where there is always room for change, and who is in power and making decisions for our districts have an impact on how or if hate is promoted through their platforms. So it's very important that we stay involved and that we take action and we flex our political power. It's important to know your rights. There are law enforcement officials here today with us that will let you know what to do in situations, but know that you do not have to open the door to anyone or give them your personal status without a warrant signed by a judge. That is very important as when we talk about immigration. We know that a lot of our community can be intimidated when we come across law enforcement officials. And we have law enforcement officials here today that will be able to provide us with more information on how we can use the resources that they have available. I would also like to share that Poder Latinx invites the community members to join us, to register to vote, to remain involved in local elections. And for those who are not eligible, we are offering citizenship workshops and clinics to help those interested and those who qualify through the process, and help giving them assistance also with the fee waiver if they qualify. You can find us online at poderlatinx.org or follow us on our social media. But I think it's evident that as our political elected officials and political agendas try to run on platforms based on hate, it's now more than ever time for us to use our political power to stop the hate. Thank you.
Thank you, Giselle. That gives me an opportunity also to remind everybody, or to make you aware, that we have booths here from our community partners that are passing out handouts. So I encourage everyone, as you get an opportunity through the evening, please do not leave without visiting the booth and seeing how you may be connected to them and be able to benefit from their services, as well as something that you may be able to give to them in their outreach in this particular area. Moving right along, our next speakers are going to be talking about indigenous rights. And as you guys know, in this particular area, that was one of the huge fights, struggles that we've had over the last, and I guess it's been about 3 years now, formally, or 2 years. It goes back longer than that. And so the next three ladies that I'm going to be introducing to you are here, and they're going to talk about the struggle with the Yokax Valley, with missing and murdered indigenous women. And it's my pleasure to bring up, and I was told to do this in a particular order. I always learn. I'm a fast learner. Shirley Guevara, who is one of our elders. She's going to be joined by Tawia Garcia and Victoria Garcia. Let's give them a hand, please.
Thank you for coming to listen. I was really surprised that they were holding something, a political issue, in a church, especially the Mennonites. I was shocked, but now that he explained, or the other guy explained how political it is and how we come together and how everybody's working together to make change and to put down hate, I was really impressed. So thank you for allowing us to come. My name is Shirley Guevara. I'm from the Dunlap Bannamono Indians. We're located 45 miles northeast of Fresno on Highway 180 below Kings Canyon National Park. I'm an elder. I'm an indigenous woman. I happen to sit on the tribal council. I'm the vice chair, but I'm not here representing the tribe. I want to make that very clear, because when we come out to speak, a lot of people say you don't have any right to speak because you're representing the tribe. I am not representing the tribe. I'm speaking for myself as an elder and a woman in the community who's here to talk about the degradation of people using the S word. And in doing that, we held you have to understand that this just didn't happen. It didn't just come out of the woodwork and people said, oh yeah, let's do this, let's jump on the bandwagon. That's not a good thing to do. Because the dominant society has always tried to put us people under their thumb to control us, even with education, politically, salary, homing, our housing, our food. But when there comes a point where we said enough is enough and we have to really stand up and come together, and that's really what this is all about. So when Squaw Valley is located on Highway 180, and we saw that sign as we were children driving through, and we'd asked our mom, who was worked for the ranchers there. They had cattle, and so we asked her about it, and she said, "Oh, it's a word, it's not a very good word, but don't worry about it. It doesn't really affect you." Yeah, because we were children, and that word, as we grow older, we kept seeing it. We kept thinking about it, so we finally researched it and saw what was going on with it. And in the 80s and 90s, some of the women came together and they did like a FAQ about the S word. And so there was one lady from California. She was Thule and Kashaya Pomo, and other ladies, some Native Americans from across the country, and they came together, and you can find it online. We didn't even think to bring a copy of it to share, but you can find that online. Frequently asked questions about the S word, and so this happened back in the even Susan Harjo went on Oprah in 1992, I believe it was, and spoke about the S word and things that were happening around that word and how it's not okay to use it, how we need to change it, how it affects Indian women, and especially women of color, because this is how the frontiersmen, when they came, tried to keep us in our place, and that's what they called us. And it's the worst possible word you can think to call a woman. And so now one of the words that they were thinking about was Nuem. It's N-U-E-M, and that means people in the Mono language. But it was spelled wrong. They put it Nim, N-I-M. So people in our respectful community in Squaw Valley called it, oh yeah, now we're going to be known as Nimrods. Oh, we're going to be known as Nimwits. And they were going on about making fun of that word. So we thought, how are we even going to stand a chance with the word S word? So then it was talked about and changed to Yokuts Valley, because a long time ago we were all kind of classified as Yokuts, but we have different bands, different tribes. They have the Mono people from Chukchansi, they have Monos from Cold Springs, they have Monos from North Fork, we have Monos in Dunlap. So there's Monos all over the San Joaquin Valley. So, and when you say you're Mono, you have to say who you are, what band you're from. So we're the Dunlap band of Mono Indians. So that's how we talk about ourselves. And the thing is about using the S word, it's about respect. And some people there in our community say, oh, it's not derogatory. It doesn't mean woman's vagina. It doesn't mean whore. It doesn't mean slut. It doesn't mean whatever worst name you could call a woman. It's meant in the most dearest terminology. It's the most respectful word we could choose for your women. And so they were really up in arms when we told them that that's really not okay for you to do. It's really not a word that we would use. And so these women started this a while ago, and then we were fortunate to pick it up and able to have meetings in Squaw Valley, able to go to rallies, able to get it out there in the forefront. And it finally passed. Deb Holland, Department of Interior, who's the first Native American woman there, was very helpful in changing that with the Bureau of Geographic Name Changes, places. So here in Fresno County, there were 7 of them. So 2 of them got changed. And then in November of 2022, I believe, Gavin Newsom signed into law that we cannot use the SWA name in any place names within the state of California. So since he signed that into law in November 2022, it goes into effect January 2025. So we're very grateful and thankful for the people that are standing behind us and supporting. And it's really been an eye-opening experience for me. As you know, I'm 72, and I was pretty active in the Bay Area. But to come home after I retired and have to deal with this in my coasting age, my retirement age. Now I'm back out there again. So no matter how old you are, or no matter what you did, we all got to come together and stand together to fight, like the lady said, against hate. So thank you.
Manavu, Chimisom Lee, my name is Julia Garcia. I'm also Donut Banamono Indian and Pit River Audrey Valley from Berlin, California. I'm also on the Donut Banamono Indian Tribal Council, member at large, but again, like my mom said, we are here just speaking as indigenous women. We also sit on the research committee, so we're constantly going through newspaper articles from a long time ago. And a lot of those newspaper articles, when you read them, they don't say a Native woman, an Indian woman, it's the S word, and even the children. Sometimes when people are sick, that's how they refer to us as we don't have a name, it's just the S word. One of my experiences, which I did not think I would have to go through, is when I moved up here to our tribal homeland in 2009. This word is still being used. It's just kind of in the background. It's not in the forefront, like in front of us. My boyfriend is non-native, and we were at a barbecue, and he was outside with some other men, and one of his friends said, "Oh yeah, my girlfriend is a squaw from Porterville." He didn't say anything to me about it right away because I would probably go off at that time, but he didn't tell me till I got home, and this is like my first experience of that word being used in like a sentence, like just in conversation. And I guess they felt like it was okay to say that because he was non-native. So this is really important for us to be out in our community, and we are involved in our community. You know, it's kind of a mixed bag. Again, I tell everybody, because there's some people that want to keep the name. Then, you know, people do have signs in their yards saying, welcome to S Valley. It's still on the Indian Trading Post in Yokuts, in Yokuts Valley, like right when you go to the trading post, it says forever Squaw Valley. So I mean, that word is still being used. You go out on the back roads, it'll say forever, the S word again, S Valley. We're the original S Valley. So I just would like everyone to know that this word is still being used. We are still out there fighting, still doing speeches to get this name to not be used at all for towns, rivers, parks, for anything. Thank you.
Manahu, everybody. My name is Victoria Garcia, and I am from the North Fork Rancheria of Mono Indians of California. It's a mouthful, but we're in the exact center of California, if you know where that is. And I just want to also jump on what our elders were saying and let you all know how important MMIW is to our community. We are not only related geographically from the northernmost band of Mono Indians, and our elders here are from the southernmost band. We're also connected spiritually. And with that, we are we have this natural sense of protectiveness and seeing, sorry, I'm getting kind of worked up, but seeing the numbers is really, it's tragic. I'm sorry, give me a moment. Four out of 5 of our women have, excuse me, I'm so sorry. It's just really, thank you. It's just really tough.
A lot of our, because of the S word and the disrespect that they have to Native women, it leads into disrespect our lifestyle. So if they think we're whores and sluts and whatever, they're going to treat us that way. So that leads into, we have the highest rate of missing indigenous women in the country. They're still not looking for us. The police don't come out, even though they say they will. They don't come out to the reservation and look as if we were white women. What's that Patino lady that got taken? They did a documentary on her as soon as she was lost. They did something for her. They did a documentary, a televised thing, and they had it on TV. But we as women of color, oh, okay, well, you know, they were probably partying. Oh, well, maybe they were drunk. Oh, well, they were high. Oh, they didn't have the lifestyle that we need to waste our time on. They didn't work, they didn't have a job, they were on welfare, they didn't take care of their kids, so why should I waste my tax dollars going out there and trying to find them? We are people just like everybody else is. We deserve the right to be looked for and for investigations to happen, whether it's on the reservation or not.
Yes, yes.
We pay our taxes. We put our pants on the same way as you all do, 1 foot at a time. We all wear socks and underwear and wash our clothes, so we need to be treated the same. Some of us own land, some of us own our own home, or we're in the process of buying it. There's no reason for missing, murdered, and indigenous women to even go on. For this many of our women to be lost and not even given a second thought for anybody to try to find us. Our relatives, our people, all of our cousins, we're all related in one way or another on this earth. Whether we like it or not, we're all related. We all have a mom, we all have a dad, sisters, brothers, cousins, aunts, uncles. Somebody's died, grandmas, grandpas, cousins. Somebody in our family has died. We're all connected. Our birthdays. I bet I find somebody in this room who has a birthday December 11th, 2 or 3 people. That's my birthday. So like it or not, we're all connected on this earth, and we all have to live on this earth together, and we all have to survive. And we all need help. And that's what this is all about, is trying to get the powers that be to take their thumb off of us and start looking for us and giving us the respect that we should be shown. Just like the Chicano people, I can remember going to school. I went to school in Reedley High School, right here. Graduated Reedley High School in 19 And it was awful. It was awful the way the white boys talked to the Mexican girls, and they thought I was Mexican, so they talked to me that way too. Good thing I had a big brother. He was big. He took up for us. He was always in trouble. And the ironic part is everybody knew him. They called him Chief because he was a big Indian guy. He was big. And they knew not to mess with him or mess with us. But it's unfortunate that has to happen back then in the 60s and 70s. But it kind of is still going on. It kind of still is happening. So I know you can do it. So if you can finish up.
I sorry, I think the Creator was calling on me to have a moment of silence. But I do just want to add that it's just unfortunate seeing it. We see the numbers, yes, but in our community we see the people, or we stop seeing them. Sorry. feel like I'm bending my head. So yeah, this name change is monumental. It's going to help protect our women who shouldn't be treated as objects, who shouldn't be just disregarded because the government wanted to exterminate us. The word, the S word, further others us. It makes us just an other population. If you've seen on the news, you probably don't see our racial group a lot, and when you do, it's a really small number. But that's even misrepresented. Out of 50 states, we have the 5th highest number of missing and murdered indigenous women. Another break for my tissue. Sorry guys, I'm a crier. But this is a really pertinent issue to this valley as well, because we have rancherias. Other places have reservations, but we have rancherias which are a lot smaller. And so police and other law enforcement, they don't go up there as much. It's a far drive. They don't take it as seriously. They think, oh, it's just another domestic violence issue. But it's not for us, and it shouldn't be. And it shouldn't be disregarded. Okay, I'm gonna try and take one deep breath to finish this for you all.
And you know what? It's good to cry. It's good to cry. Even if you cry in a crowd, don't ever feel embarrassed, because you're releasing all that we've held in for our people and for our future generations. And it's good to cry and let it out and let our people know that we're here and we're thinking about them and we want the best for them in the future to come for our people in all our communities.
And I just want to echo that as a young person. I have younger sisters, I have younger cousins, but it's the aunties like these two and all of you in the audience who protect us, and this is why we're here. I lied. I'm still getting used to public speaking, but this is an issue that I feel is really important because we can't keep letting our women get lost in the numbers. Yeah. We need protection, and we need people to understand that this issue it's more than just a statistic. It's more than just, oh, another person, oh, it's so sad they're missing. That's someone's mother, sister, cousin, auntie. It's more than that, and it always will be. What was that? Oh, I don't know how to do that. I appreciate it. And I want to thank you all for having us here. It's really powerful. I'm from the valley, from the mountains, from the hills. And I hope that the future is bright for our women. I hope that they can go do things without fear for their lives.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you for sharing your heartfelt comments and your life stories. When people tell you about critical race theory, you just observed it. All critical race theory is a person telling their own story. Okay? We had a prime example of the 3 ladies who had just shared their life stories with us. That story couldn't be told by anyone else. It should not be told by anyone else. And so when you hear the CRT, critical race theory, please don't buy into the miseducation that we're receiving. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think that is our biggest enemy right now, why people are perpetuating hate, is ignorance. And ignorance is only the absence of knowledge. And so once we sit down together and break bread and have conversations, I learn about you, you learn about me, there's no way we can hate each other. Okay. So with that, our next speaker is going to be coming up talking about another issue, which I understand is pretty focal here in Reedley, but I also know that it permeates throughout the county. and that is our unhoused population. And so it's my pleasure to bring up Bob McCluskey, who's done lots of work, written numerous articles for us, Community Alliance. He's going to share some information with us as well. Bob? You can talk for him.
Thank you, Darren, and thank you for being here, everyone. I'm going to speak on the issue of hate crimes against the unhoused. Sadly, on September 21st, 2022, a young woman was found behind the Rite Aid here in Reedley, murdered. She was found in her wheelchair. She was paraplegic in a pile of burning debris. This makes me sad, so sad, but it's making me emotional at this time. The Reedley police is still investigating this homicide. It is considered a homicide. Although they haven't investigated it as a hate crime, I believe it may be a hate crime. And I just wanted to get into a study that was done by the University of California in San Francisco titled Violence Against People Who Are Homeless, a Hidden Epidemic. In July 2022, 3 homeless people in New York were stabbed while sleeping, one fatally. Those attacks follow a spate of similar events across the country, including one assailant shooting 5 people sleeping outdoors in New York and Washington, D.C. in 2022. In Los Angeles 2021, 85 people experienced homelessness were murdered, the highest number ever recorded. On top of that, due to long-standing effects of structural racism, homophobia, and transphobia, Black, Native Americans, as well as lesbian, gay, and transgender Americans are overrepresented in the homeless population. Furthering their vulnerability, the homeless population is aging. I see that on the streets of Fresno when I do outreach. There's a lot of elderly people out there, disabled elderly people. It's not just when there's potential serial murder, but people are afraid every day on the streets of Fresno, Reedley, and wherever they are as being unhoused. Violence against people experiencing homelessness is not new. Ample research shows how often they are victimized. The numbers are far higher than lifetime estimates for the general population. People with mental health problems are also more likely to be victims of violence. In addition, a study of homeless women found that 48% had experienced physical violence without a weapon, 18% with a weapon, and 18% had experienced sexual violence within the last 6 months. In an ongoing study of older unhoused folks, we found that almost 12% had experienced physical or sexual assault in the last 6 months. Despite such violence, instead of focusing on safety for the unhoused neighbors, our unhoused neighbors, and they're our street family, that's what we call them. The misrepresentation that people without homes are perpetrators rather than victims of violence contributes to both criminalizing homelessness and dehumanizing those that are unhoused. Criminalization, of course, diverts resources, worsens impoverishment, increases incarceration, and poses barriers to existing homelessness. It also makes it harder to report threats of violence and contributes to the dehumanization of the unhoused. Poverty is the 4th leading cause of death in America, behind heart disease, cancer, and smoking-related death. As Dr. Martin Luther King said, poverty is violence. The largest survey of homeless Californians in a decade was just completed by the University of California at San Francisco. And it states that losing income is the #1 reason Californians end up homeless. and that the majority of those interviewed, and it was an extensive study, say that a subsidy as little as $300 a month could have kept them off the streets. In 6 months prior to becoming homeless, the California survey were making a median income of just $960 a month. The median rent for a two-bedroom apartment is nearly 3 times that, according to Zillow. Although some survey participants listed a myriad of reasons why they lost their homes, most people cited a loss of or reduction in their income. A new report from the National Low-Income Housing Coalition cites that the state has a $15.50 minimum wage. The average renter in California makes only $33 an hour, and the study found that it takes $42.45 an hour to rent a two-bedroom apartment in California. By the way, Fresno County has short 35,000 housing units. The lack of affordable housing is clearly a cause of homelessness. I just want to wrap up here by also sharing the podium with Ben Thomas, Pastor Ben Thomas. He's an advocate in Parlier. He works with local unhoused folks. He does direct outreach, and he's going to come up here and speak for a little while, because I only have 10 minutes. I gave him part of my time. Mr. Pastor Ben Thomas, thank you very much for participating today.
I'm humbled to be here speaking to you today on behalf of the unhoused homeless. They're regarded as in the Parlier area. I lived in Parlier since 1956. My parents were migrant farm workers arriving from Texas in 1956. And throughout the years, I became a police officer in the city of Parlier, graduated Fresno State, became involved with education. But over the years, we have seen tremendous growth in homeless people hanging around the Parlier ranches, sleeping under orange trees. There's an encampment in Parlier where there are between 45 and 50 people there. They are hungry. They're thirsty. They're cold. They're somebody's son. There's women there also. There's somebody's daughter. But they're homeless. Many of them suffer from mental health, wellness issues, a very serious problem. We have reached out to veterans that have returned from Iraq and other places of war, suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Unless you go out there and take them some cold water, a morsel of food, perhaps the stigmas that have developed over the years, the stereotypes that these people living in homelessness are lazy, drug addicts, bums. No. Chapter 25 of the book of Matthew, verse 35, the Lord Jesus Christ told his disciples, "You visited me in prison, you fed me when I was hungry, and you gave me water when I was thirsty. You sheltered me." And the disciples responded to Jesus, "Lord, we have never done those things." And the Lord responded to them, and I believe he's speaking to us today. He said, "When you do it to the one of the least of mine, my little children, it's as if you had done it to me." We must not just become culturally sensitive, and I'm not just speaking to my fellow believers and disciples of the Lord. I'm speaking to anyone who has ears to hear. These people are human. They're suffering. We just had a death in Parlier not too long ago, because these people are also attacked by either gang members taking whatever little they have, even if it's a $5 bill. This is real, people. And before it gets better, it's going to get worse. Because drug addiction, fentanyl, all those horrific drugs that are affecting our communities, whether it's an urban city like Fresno or a farm working community like Parlier, the ills and evils of human suffering is the same. This is a humanitarian issue. And we must wake up, and not just the church, our local government officials, city council people. City of Parlier has received tens of thousands of dollars from the state and the federal government in the last 5 years. Very little, if any, of that money has trickled down for direct services to these people in suffering. Medical services. This is a medical issue. It's a health issue in our communities, where diseases can be spread so easily if these men and women living out there in misery are not contacted. We're working for mobile health services to go out and reach out to these people. So I know that time is limited. There are not too many town hall meetings that I'm able to go to. But I'll close with this. Please, if you have contact with city officials, educational officials, let them know that this is a very severe humanitarian issue, that this valley of the San Joaquin is suffering from severely. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, gentlemen. That also kind of reminds me that I want to make two acknowledgments as we're talking about civic organizations. I want to make sure that everyone realizes that the Chief of Police for the City of Reedley is here, Chief Garza, as well as we have a representative from Kings Canyon Unified School District here, and Superintendent John Campbell's absence, Mr. Guzman is here. I believe I need to do that because I want to make sure that it's important that you know who's in the room with you. And although you may not hear from them this evening, here in front of the podium, you need to understand that the ears of the city are here. And so I want to make sure that I acknowledge those two gentlemen. Is there anyone from the city that I'm not aware of that's here? I'm sorry. You're going to have to stand and introduce yourself because I don't know who you are. I apologize.
Right. Nicole Seaman, the city manager for the city of Reedley. Very glad to be here with you tonight. Thank you for inviting. And City Councilman Matt Pell is also here tonight.
Okay. My apologies, you didn't make my cheat sheet, and so I want to make sure. Anyone from the county? I don't think so, but anyway, I just want to make sure I cover that base. So next, our next speaker also serves one of the local entities, and I know she's not here in that capacity, but I am going to make sure you know who she is. We have trustee with State Center Community College, our community college district here in this area. Nazarene Johnson is going to come before us right now. She's going to be talking with us about the LGBTQ plus community.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation to come here tonight and speak before you. And thank you for clearing up the nature of the churches. I had calls from people warning me so that I didn't come into a community without knowing what I was getting myself into. So I'm glad to see that everyone in the room is here because we appreciate others even if they're different than us. As Dr. Miller mentioned, my name is Nasreen Johnson, and I am a trustee for State Center Community College District. I'm the board president. There are 4 colleges and a couple of centers in our district, including Reedley College right up the road. There's a lot that I could cover about LGBTQ right now. One is the nearly 500 bills in legislation against the LGBTQ community. I'll say that just because we're in California doesn't make us insulated from that legislation. At least one of those bills was here. And there are people in our communities fighting against people like me and my family every day. And so that's one thing I could talk about. I could talk about how even although Fresno is more urban, it's where I live. Just this week, Fresno State's diversity pride flag was torn down and ruined. Thankfully, the campus and the president at Fresno State spoke out against that hate. I could also talk to you about just yesterday I read that in Hermosa Beach, somebody lit fireworks and threw them into a crowd at a pride celebration. Or I could tell you that I traveled to another rural community here in Fresno County to support a friend speaking about pride at a community college. And then after we spent time there and talked with a few students who felt comfortable enough to attend, we were told by the organizer, an ally who had brought their family, that unfortunately he would love to take us out to dinner in the community, but that it wasn't safe. So we made the drive back across the county so that we could eat somewhere where rainbows wouldn't bring hate and violence against us or the people we were with who lived in that community. But I come to you with a couple of things because I'd like to focus on what we can all do. And I think part of what we can all do is listen to others' experiences that could be very different than ours. So I really greatly appreciate the folks who spoke before me, because while I don't share some of those identities, we share the humanity. So thank you. I have 2 children. I was a single parent, and when my oldest child was about 3 or 4, they would cry. Why, Mom? Why do I have to be a girl? I hate being a girl. I don't want to be a girl. And I don't hear, yes, there are other kids who, don't like, wearing dresses or, but this felt really deep and different. And so I started upon my journey, right, to learn more about the trans community just in case my child was trans. I wanted to fill their life full of people, not just rainbows, but full of people, rainbow friends, people who saw through the differences and through the even not understanding, but could still recognize that someone was human. And so I sought out transgender friends. And I wanted them to see transgender adults in our life, living, happy, regular lives alongside us, and I was blessed to be able to find people who are out in the community and who shared their experiences with us. And we didn't really talk a whole lot about their gender. They were probably about 6 years old, and they said, "Mom, another bout, it would just kind of come on. I don't want to be a girl, I don't want to be a girl." And I said, "Well, look around." And I gave really, varied examples of the different types of girls and women in our life. Some were very girly, some were not very girly. Some would get chased out of women's restrooms because they were masculine, even though they identified as women. But there's a whole range, and I explained to my child, there's a whole range of people that you could grow up to be. The only thing I'm concerned about is that you grow up to be kind. I said, the rest we'll figure out. So when they were 16 last year, they came to me and they said, "Mom, I want to start testosterone." Right? So that's a gender affirming hormone. And I had done my research about testosterone, and I said, "All right, how can I help?" I said, do you need, and they said, "No, I've already gone to the clinic. I've already, they had it all planned." And I said, "Okay." And they said, "Well, would you, they wanted me to be included." And I thanked them for sharing that with me, because that's personal, and they didn't have to share that. And I'm constantly reminded and taught by my children, right? It's like the poem, "Our children come from us, but they aren't ours," that they come through us. And so I am always a pupil of my children. And so I've learned a lot, but they learned at the clinic how to self-inject their hormone weekly, and I've watched them blossom over the last year. Their body's undergone some changes. There have been, I'm like, why do we have to do puberty twice, right? There have been some changes, and we got really great news last week that they get to have their hysterectomy. And I mention that because that is something that I was denied as a cisgender woman, was the opportunity after I had my children to make that choice for myself. Because I went in to say, "Hey, I'm having all these reproductive problems, and I'm in a lot of pain every single month, and I've been on hormones my whole life since I was 13 years old to soothe this thing, and I'm done with it, and I want it removed." And my doctor said, "Well, you need a man, and he wants to have more children." And so I bring that up because these issues, even though you might not identify on one plane or understand the needs of one person, these impact so many others. And so I had to wait another decade before I could get my uterus out. And so when my child said, I've connected with a doctor, and I say all this because while I'm so excited for them to know who they are and to be so strong, my heart is broken for the people that don't have access to the reproductive care, to the gender affirming care that they need, to the insurance that they need to cover it. But my child will get the opportunity to have their uterus out the week of their 18th birthday. And their doctor even said, "If you need it out sooner, I'll go against the ethics board and I will fight for you." And my child said, "I can wait 6 more months. I'm good, but thank you for asking." And so I just ask, because I understand that even in really affirming and accepting places where LGBTQ people are affirmed, some people are still have a lot of issues with that T in LGBTQ. And I would like to remind everyone that the reason we celebrate Pride in June is because of a trans woman. I believe she's also homeless, And so I want us to, as we stand up against hate in all of the many communities different ways that we stand together, because the one thing I think that allows others to win is that when they fracture us, right? So when somebody says, well, I don't understand why a child could need something, and I understand because I am seeking opportunities for my child to stay alive, right? So my child might need this to stay alive. That doesn't mean that I want your child to need it too. I would hope that, everyone gets what they need and what nourishes them, but we should be open-minded even if it's an experience that we can't directly identify, that we listen with our ears, but mostly with our hearts. And I will also say that just a little tiny update from the district. We've been really fortunate to have a really strong board who believes in diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. And so we are putting into place strong policies, not just to protect the LGBTQ students and their families and our staff, but also for our homeless students, for our undocumented students, for our Native students, for every student who might not feel that college is the place for them. We want our students and our staff to feel affirmed when they step on foot, because it is for them. It's community college is for our community and for everyone. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson. And although that wasn't based on race, that's another example of CRT. Another person telling their own story and not having someone tell it for them. So thank you again, Trustee Johnson. So as our next presenter gets set up here, I'm going to take the liberties of going through this real quick. One of the things that Elder Shirley talked about that kind of buzzed me was about the word politics. And how when people, I'm sure when I said it right now, some people, the hair on the back of your neck kind of started to them. So here's the definition. As I said, I'm in academia, and so I'm big on words. Politics is nothing more than the activities associated with the governance of a country or other area, especially the debate, conflict among individuals or parties having or hoping to achieve power. That's simply what politics is. There's nothing mystifying about it. How many people in here are married? Raise your hand, please. You participated in politics today. I know you did. Husbands and wives have strong debates. How many of you are parents, grandparents? I know for a fact that you have been involved in politics, having that strong debate. Why? Got you. Those of us who are in education, teachers, counselors, administrators, we have been involved in politics. Okay? What we've got to get away from is the fleeing of politics because we don't understand. Because we've been misinformed by people who do not want us to participate in that process. Okay? That's all politics are. Okay? I'll do a shameless plug. One of the things I've had the pleasure of doing over the last this will be the fourth summer in a row, is I do something called Politics 101. It's a discussion where I teach civics, basically, which those of you who don't know, civics was basically removed out of the curriculum around 1985, 1986, and has not been put back in. And so a lot of our young people don't understand how civics actually works. And so I'm doing my part. It's every Wednesday at 6 p.m. via Zoom. Please reach out to the Community Alliance or to anyone that's here. You can I'll give you a business card. It's a simple discussion over an hour where I kind of present some information and then we have conversations. Because there's a lot of miseducation, misinformation out there about the political process. And so I want to make sure that I do what I can to demystify that. Because we're all participating on a regular basis. So with that, our next presentation is going to be from the Department of Justice. Are you doing it by yourself? Okay. So the Department of Justice has been partnering with us, came on board Town Hall number 2, correct? Yeah. And we're in Herman. So California Department of Justice, Attorney General Rob Bonta's office has a CARE, community, never mind, I won't mess it up, but there's an acronym, CARE, And Ephraim has been the representative from that body who comes in and presents for us. And so at this time, I'll turn it over to Ephraim. It's a beautiful Spanish name. Ephraim Botelos Cisneros.
You got the name down perfectly. I like the R too, Ephraim. You got to get that right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Ephraim. I'm from Fresno, and I work for the California Department of Justice for Attorney General Rob Bonta. I'm a community outreach specialist. I'm not an attorney there. I do the community engagement piece for the Attorney General in the Central Valley specifically, so from Sacramento all the way down to Kern County. So it's a pretty big region. Like I said, we want to make sure we're connecting with the community partners on the ground, which is why I'm here today, and this is a great opportunity to share some of our resources related to hate crime. Go to the next slide. So this is just a quick overview of what I'm going to be sharing out really briefly. So we're going to be going over the overview of the Office of Care. I'll talk about what the Office of Care is. We'll talk about identifying and reporting a hate crime. We know that's extremely important for community members to know. And we'll also talk about DOJ's role in the fight against hate. So, Office of Care, what it is, it's an acronym, so it's a really long name, the Office of Community Awareness, Response, and Engagement. We just call it CARE for short. So this is a new office, new department within the Department of Justice. This is one of the Attorney General Rob Bonta's top priorities when he was elected, or he was appointed to the Attorney General back in 2021. He wanted to make sure that folks had access to justice, right? Making sure that folks knew that we were here to help communities, particularly focusing on communities that have historically been marginalized. So here we have the 4 overarching goals of our office. The first one is to develop knowledge and awareness amongst the public and community organizations of the Department of Justice missions and actions on behalf of the people of California. The second is to build trusted relationships with California's communities, focusing on those who have been marginalized and underrepresented. I think that's a big piece of our work, right? Because we don't want to have just the connections with other elected officials, big organizations. We want to have the connection with local folks. So I'm here as an extension of the Attorney General for the Central Valley. Always feel free to reach out to me, and let's connect and let's find out how we can collaborate together at the Department of Justice. You want to say next slide, Mike? So really quick, just want to share a quick overview on what is a hate crime from the Department of Justice. So hate crime is a crime against a person, group, or property motivated by the victim's real or perceived protected social group. So you may be a victim of a hate crime if you have been targeted because of your actual or perceived disability, gender, nationality, race, ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, association with a person or a group, etc. Go to the next slide. So just want to be really clear that to be reported as a hate crime to the Department of Justice, the incident must contain the following elements. A criminal act or an attempted criminal act and bias motivated against a protected characteristics, the ones that I just mentioned. And, I just want to make it clear that us at the California Department of Justice, we don't have a mechanism where folks can directly report a hate crime to us. So I think what I really want to emphasize today, and I'm grateful that the Chief of Police is here as well, is that we want to make sure that folks are making these reports to their local law enforcement agency. Can you go to the next slide, Mike? So here we have outlined some guidance related to hate crimes and reporting a hate crime. The first one is to contact your local law enforcement agency right away. We want to emphasize that as much as we can. We do a yearly report on hate crimes, and we get the data from local law enforcement agencies. We know there's an issue with underreporting, so we just want to emphasize that it's really important for us. That way we can highlight in our yearly report these issues. The second is to get medical attention if you need it. The third, write down the exact words that were said in the incident. 4, make notes about any other facts in the incident. 5, save all evidence. This includes graffiti, maybe eggshells, writing on the victim's vehicle, etc. And if it's safe to do so, please wait until law enforcement arrives and just take photos of the incident as well if it's safe to do so. We also encourage folks to get names, addresses, phone numbers, and emails of other victims or witnesses. We also encourage folks to try to get a description from an eyewitness of the criminal or the vehicle. And then lastly, contact community organizations in your area that work on this issue of hate crime. So, we're hosting this in partnership with a lot of community organizations, so please check out the resource booths because community organizations are critical to this work along with the law enforcement agencies. Next slide. And we've been doing roundtables on hate crimes throughout the state just to learn more about what's happening regionally. One of the biggest things that we've been hearing, right, is that it's important that we report to local law enforcement, but something that's already been mentioned today is that not everybody has the best relationship with law enforcement. Maybe folks are intimidated to reporting to law enforcement, etc., right? So we understand those concerns, and the state of California I just want to emphasize that the state of California just recently launched, the California Civil Rights Department just recently launched a new multilingual statewide hotline and a website that provides a safe, anonymous reporting option for victims and witnesses of hate acts. So this is another resource to just have in your toolbox if you run into community members that don't feel comfortable reporting to law enforcement agencies. The number for this is 833-866-4283. This is another mechanism for folks in the community to be able to report these hate crimes and hate incidents. That way we note them and we know the exact numbers and we're not undercounting these incidents. So that's a really important one. And if you go to the next slide. And now I just want to talk briefly about protecting Californians for hate crimes and our role as a department related to hate crimes. So we have a lot of tools and resources available to aid and assist local community members. We have really great brochures in a lot of different languages on our website. So if you go to oag.ca.gov/hate crimes, we have a whole bunch of resources there. I have some here at this table that you can check out as well, but if you want to print them for your own use and to hand out to your constituents, we encourage you to do so, and just look at all the resources that we have available related to hate crimes. And this is a big one that I want to highlight today, our open justice portal. We publish criminal justice data and data related to hate crimes. So yearly, by state law, we need to release a report on hate crimes. And just this Tuesday, we released our 2022 hate crimes report. And something that we can't escape is the data. We know that these incidents are horrible and these incidents are a struggle in our community, but if we ignore it, we're never going to get past the issue. So this data is really important data for us as community folks to use in our efforts to address hate crimes. Can you go to the next slide? So I'll get to a little bit about the 2022 report. You can always check it out yourself as well. But before I do so, just want to say some of the things that the Attorney General, Rob Bonta, has done since his appointment to his position. So we do issuance of law enforcement bulletins. So these resources are intended to reach the people who are confronting this on a daily basis and help law enforcement agencies ensure that we're getting account of all the hate crimes. We also, the Attorney General has committed to hosting hate crimes roundtables, as I mentioned, with the 13 big city mayors. We've already hosted 11 of them. We only have 2 left to go. Our most recent was Bakersfield, and this is an opportunity for us to also engage with local community partners and organizations to hear what are some of those issues, right? One of those things that we learned is the issue with not everybody having access to reporting to the local law enforcement agency. So it's just a way for us to learn what's going on and how we can best address these issues. And the 2022 hate crimes report, a lot of folks are waiting for this. This is really important data, like I said, for us to address because we need to know what the issues are. So I just want to share some of these findings that we got here. Unfortunately, they didn't get better since 2021. Unfortunately, a lot of these numbers got worse. So it's really sad to say, and I just want to share some of these points with you all, that overall reported hate crimes events increased 20% from 2021 to 2022. And all these data points are in comparison from 2021 to 2022. So the hate crimes overall increased. Reported hate crime events involving a racial bias overall increased by 11%, about 11%. And when we're looking at the race categories, anti-Black or African American hate rose from 2021 to 2022. We also saw a rise In a few other categories, one thing that I want to mention that we're grateful for is that we did see a decrease in hate against the AAPI community. So that was really good to see. However, we know that after the pandemic, since 2020, these incidents have been very high. So these numbers are still high in 2022. It's just a matter of that they decreased in comparison to 2021. So we're grateful for the decrease, but nonetheless, there's still that issue there in the community. We also have reported hate crimes involving a religion bias increased 39%. So the most prevalent here that we saw were anti-Jewish and anti-Islamic bias motivated hate. That increased. And then we get down to the conversation we're just having about our LGBTQ community. We saw reported hate crimes involving a sexual orientation bias increased 29% from 2021. And events involving a gender bias increased 54% from 2021 to 2022. So, these are not statistics that we're happy to share, but we know that they're really important because, like I said, the data is the data, and we must address these issues collaboratively in community. So those are some of the incidents that I wanted to share. These are available on our website, oag.ca.gov/hate crimes. I'll be happy to share these out, but just wanted to share some overall highlights that we've seen and want to make sure that you all know that everybody has access to this information. That way when you're out in community, you could use it as needed. So this is my contact information. I'll be here around. I have business cards. Feel free to reach out to us. Attorney General Bonta's office, we're really committed to this work. We've been doing a lot of work regarding hate crimes. We're going to be having some regional briefings on hate crimes for the Central Valley. I'll be hosting those, so please, if you're interested in learning more about what the statistics look like, specifically here in the Central Valley, that's going to be a really good opportunity for you all to be engaged. So, please feel free to let me know. That way I can get you all on that list. So that's all I have to share with you all. Thank you all for allowing me in this space and inviting me. We really appreciate it. The Attorney General really appreciates it, and we appreciate the work that you all are doing.
Thank you, Efrain. The Department of Justice has been a big partner of ours, like I said, Town Hall 2, 3, and 4. Real quickly, before we have our star come up, there's one other presentation we're going to have from one of our newest partners, the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Is that right? I've never been in trouble with you guys. I don't know if that happened. So the FBI, who has come on board also with us, to partner with us, is going to be doing the presentation, and they're represented by Ryan Deming. You told me that. All right, thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Deming. I'm the Supervisory Special Agent for the FBI in Fresno. First of all, how many of you knew we had an FBI office in Fresno? Okay, good mix. If you didn't, that's probably a good thing too, right? So we have an office in Fresno, has about 24, 25 agents. We investigate violent crime, we investigate white-collar crime, we investigate terrorism and national security incidents, and we also investigate civil rights, including hate crimes. Nationally, the FBI's priorities are protecting our country from terrorism, protecting our cyber infrastructure and investigating cyber intrusions, and also one of our top priorities is investigating civil rights violations, including hate crimes. I don't have 2022 numbers, but I can tell you from 2021, there were about over 10,000 hate crime incidents nationally involving about 12,000 victims. Sorry about that. About 65% of those were victimized because of their race or ethnicity, followed by 15% or 16% that were victimized because of their sexual orientation, and about 14% victimized because of their race or religion, I want to thank the previous presenters who shared very courageous personal stories. I think those are important. It's important for the FBI to be a part of the community, to hear some of those stories, to raise awareness to some of these issues. So I appreciate that. I appreciate those stories. I don't want to take too much of your time because you have a very impactful speaker coming. But I do want to emphasize what our counterparts at the California Department of Justice emphasize, is that investigations of hate crimes are driven by reports from victims in the community. So it's important to report crimes. Even if you're not sure if it's a crime, it's important to report it. And we encourage dual reporting, both to local law enforcement and to federal law enforcement, to the FBI. It's important both for the cities and the counties to have a perspective of the hate crimes that are occurring in their jurisdiction, but it's also important for the federal government to have a perspective of what's happening nationally as it relates to civil rights violations. We have great partnerships, including with Reedley Police, but all of the local law enforcement agencies here in the Central Valley, we collaborate really well with, and we both bring a different perspective to a hate crime investigation, so that's why it's important to report it to both agencies. You can make reports to the FBI online. It's easy to find the FBI's website, or simply call 1-800-CALL-FBI and make it very easy to report crimes. Lastly, we have a table here. We have some flyers to explain more about what the FBI is doing here in Fresno. Y también tenemos folletos en español, si habla español. Tenemos folletos aquí también. So thank you all for the time. I appreciate it, and we look forward to moving on.
That was impressive. Should have had him do the introduction up here. One other partner who I want to acknowledge in their absence is the U.S. Attorney's Office. Unfortunately, they weren't able to be with us today, but they've been partnering with us as well. The presentation has been presented as Town Hall number 2 and number 3 with DOJ, and so I want to make sure that I acknowledge them in their absence today because it was a scheduling conflict. One other acknowledgement, I want to acknowledge Sergio Rodriguez, who is the District Administrator for Kings County Unified and Student Services. I got to know that you're here somewhere. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And so, now it's my honor to introduce someone to you who does not need an introduction, but I'm going to try my best. Everybody knows that this person was involved with the UFW for many years, United Farm Workers, and all the protests that would happen in the late 60s through the 70s around labor. She has been adopted by every community that I come across. Although she is of Latino descent, I think she'll claim that proudly. She's a sister to me. She's a sister to the LGBT community. She's a sister in the labor movement. She's a sister to everybody who will accept her as she comes. She is an award winner. She has been presented with the Presidential Eleanor Roosevelt Award for Human Rights. She has a Presidential Medal of Freedom. I remember when that was awarded to her by President Obama. And she's also was the first Latina inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame, which I did not know existed until I looked up our guest. Here's the part that impresses me the most. Two things. One, she's so bad she got her own movie. I don't know if I know anybody personally that has their own movie. And I think it was 2017. There was a movie about her, depiction of her life that I got an opportunity to see here in Fresno as part of one of the opening screens. And here's the number one bullet point for me. In 2019, at the age of, I'm going to have to tell your age, I apologize. Okay. At the age of 89 years old, she was still getting into good trouble. There was a dispute, a political dispute going on with our board of supervisors and SEIU. I'm not sure which unit it was. And she felt so compelled that at the age of 89 years old, she was detained. Wasn't arrested. She was detained by the Sheriff's Department and escorted out of the Board of Supervisors. I hope at 89 years old I'm able to do something of that significance. And so with that, it is my honor and pleasure to introduce this evening a labor leader and a civil rights icon, Dolores Huerta.
affecting, I'm going to say, our democracy, okay? They are affecting our democracy. And thank you for calling me an icon. My youngest son said, Mom, you're not an icon, you're an icon. I can. And I want to thank the Community Alliance also for hosting us to make this happen today. And it makes me feel so good to see all of you here because our country is under such a threat that I don't even think that we realize how really serious it is. We heard the statistics. The fact that there are people in our country that are being attacked because they are LGBT, because they're gay, because they're immigrants, you know? The criminalization of people that we see. You have probably heard the word today. I hope you haven't. If you haven't, I'm going to bring it up. And it's the F word. Fascism, okay? Fascism. We have to call it what it is. We have to call it what it is. And the word fascism comes from a German word that means to hurt. To hurt people. And that's exactly what we see that is happening right now. We just heard today about the Supreme Court decisions, okay? About doing away with affirmative action. We heard about them now trying to make not forgiving kids for the school loans, when we should be having pre-college education in the United States of America for every single kid. As they have in Scandinavia and in parts of Latin America, where students get pre-college education and free health care, okay? And yet we see us going backwards again. You know? So, why is this happening to us? Well, we know it's about power, it's about money. But you know, I just want to talk about this legacy that we have. I'm going to call it the legacy of slavery. On June the 19th, we celebrated the final end of slavery, supposedly in Texas, okay? The final. So what is this legacy of slavery that we have? Number one, that people, like farm workers and others, should spend their life's energy working to make other people rich, okay? But not being able to take care of their own families for their own selves. That is a legacy of slavery. The legacy of slavery is to keep people from having an education. That's the legacy of slavery. So when we see all of these anti-woke things that are happening throughout our country to keep people from understanding what the legacy of slavery is, and this is where racism comes from. It comes from slavery to kind of justify making people work for nothing to make other people rich. That's the legacy of slavery. And that then goes on to women, and it goes on to children, that legacy of slavery. This is what we are up against right now. And I just want to talk a little bit, because racism is so fundamental to everything that we are seeing. And I just want to say to everybody, and all of us, we don't want to beg of you, this is not going to end unless we are the ones that are going to have to end it. So I'm going to ask you to be the messengers of justice and the messengers of peace. This is all of our fight right here. All of our fight. There's one basic truth, and this is science. I know we have a lot of people that are anti-science right now. There's one basic truth, that we are all human beings, and we all come, I'm going to say this, where did our human race begin? Our human race began in Africa. Think about that. Our human race began in Africa. And as our human race traveled the planet, people went up there to the northern areas of Europe. People lost the color of their skin, they got lighter. Different color hair, different color eyes. But we are all Homo sapiens. One human race. We're the only human race that survived on this planet, Homo sapiens. We're all the same. And we have to remember that. If you can think of all of yourselves, of being Africans and myself, that we are all Africans of different shades of colors. I'm going to repeat that. We are all Africans of different shades and colors. And our human race, thank you. Yeah, let's applaud that. Let's do that. And we would never have survived on planet Earth had we not taken care of each other and protected each other. Because we were the smallest of the mammals. The bigger mammals could have had us for lunch, okay? And they didn't, because we took care of each other. I'm going to ask you to do something right now. I want you to take the hand of the person next to you. Take the hand of the person next to you. Please, take the hand of the person next to you. Okay? Turn to the person next to you and say, hello, relative. Yes, we're all related. We're all related. Does it feel that you know that you're related to Obama? Okay. And to Dr. King? And to Robert Kennedy Jr.? All right. This is real good, right? To know that we're all related, okay? So we just have to remember that. And the other thing I want to say about, and I want to give you a quote from the Mexican president of Mexico, Benito Juarez. He was an indigenous president after they got the independence from Spain. And he had a great saying, respecting other people's rights is peace. Respecting other people's rights is peace. In Spanish, el respeto al derecho ajeno es la paz. Why do I say that? I am the mother of 11 children, okay? I'm the mother of 11 children. My daughter Juanita has a dog named Bruno, okay? And a cat named Juma. And she is not going to have any children. My youngest son Rick, he's not going to have any children either. I'm okay with their choice, okay? That is their life, that is their business, and every family, every woman has a right to decide what is good for her own body. And nobody. No religious leader should tell a woman what to do with her body. That is her human right. When it comes to gay marriage, if you fall in love with somebody, live with, or marry somebody of your own sex, whose business is that? That's their business, right? It doesn't affect you or your family. It doesn't affect you at all. That is their business, okay? So we have to remember that. And all of us have people that we know that are kind of confused on these issues. You know, they're confused on these issues. And I know a lot of us that have, you know, I was raised a Catholic. Now, I was taught that abortion as a sin. But again, let's go back to science. What does science say? A fetus is not a person. A fetus is not a person until that person is born. We have to remember that this is science, okay? This is science. And I know that that's a debate right now. But you know, we have to really understand these things, and we cannot let people become criminalized on these issues, like it's happening right now in so many states in our country right now. So, as I said before, fascism is here. I'm going to give you another little statistic that will show you how fascism is here in our country. In the United States of America, we have more people in prison than India or China. What's our population? 300 million? What's the population of India? 1 billion? The population of China? Over 1 billion? How is it that we have more people in prison here? How is it? And who are the people in prison? They're black, they're brown, they're poor white people, okay? that don't have the money to spend a lot of money on attorneys. So this is what we're looking at right now, the face of fascism. And who's going to stop this? Sometimes I think to myself, what would have happened to all of us having been in Nazi Germany? When Hitler came in and started taking people to incarcerations and to prisons, and the gypsies and the disabled and the Jews, what would we have done to stop that? What would we have done? Well, we have to save democracy in the United States of America. And what makes us really different in the Central Valley of California? Not only that we feed the nation in big parts of the world, you know, that's really important, but there's something else that's different about us. Because we are like some of those southern states, okay, where these laws are being passed against women and against gays, and trying to keep people from learning about slavery and how it started, you know, and why we have to end it. That's what makes us kind of similar. And I think many of us here, well, that we have friends and relatives in those other states, that we can call and talk to them, share the message with them, share this message with them. And they may not want to hear the message. They may not agree with us, but we can plant that seed. We can plant that seed. And we've got to do more. Robert Kennedy, Senator Robert Kennedy, just before he was assassinated in Los Angeles in 1968, he said these words: "We have responsibilities and obligations to our fellow citizens." We have responsibilities and obligations to our fellow citizens. So we can do this, okay? Because the one thing that will stand up to the fascists and to those people who want to continue hurting people is us, the numbers. So, you know, we've had a beautiful afternoon here today talking about these issues, being informed, and we see the statistics, and we see why we have to start acting now and think, what is it we can do? We have to talk to our neighbors, we have to talk to our friends, maybe we can form committees in our neighborhood. I would like to see a big old march saying, "Stop the hate right here in the Central Valley," you know? Stop the hate right here in the Central Valley. People will know. And our politicians will hear us, so they can hear us and understand what they have to do. I was very disappointed when I was in the Board of Supervisors recently, not getting arrested, just being there talking. And the Board of Supervisors of Fresno County, they voted to only fly the American flag and the California flag. Why did they do that? Because a couple of years ago, the city of Fresno, they flew the pride flag. They flew the pride flag. It was beautiful. I mean, there were 1,000 people there. People cheered. There was laughter. There was celebration. There was joy. Because we were defending those amongst us that need the most protection. But the Board of Supervisors of Fresno County, and this is happening all over the city of California. And in fact, I spoke to a city councilwoman out of the San Bernardino area. What happened at their city council meeting? There were people that said, if you want to fly the pride flag, then you have to fly the KKK flag. In today's world, they said, you have to fly the KKK flag, okay? So this is not going to stop unless we are the ones that are going to stop it. We have a lot of people here today. I'm so happy to see all of you. And sometimes we think, well, maybe I'm the person I can't do it by myself, you know? And, you know, when we started the United Farm Workers Union, there were only 3 of us. Cesar Chavez, his wife Helen Chavez, and myself. 3. And then his brother Richard joined, and then more people joined, and pretty soon we had thousands of people. So it's going to start with us, and please, I just want to promise you and assure you that we can make it happen. See somebody. So I'm going to ask all of you to do me a favor and stand up. You can stand up for a minute. I haven't seen down for a long time. I'm going to ask you 2 questions. And I know you know the answer to my question, but I want you to wait for me, okay? The first question I'm going to ask you who's got the power. I want you to say, we've got the power. Second question is, what kind of power? You're going to answer the word people power, all right? Just the way the revolution was won against the English here, and to get to be able to celebrate the 4th of July, but we're going to celebrate in 2 days. Okay, 2 questions. Who's got the power? You're going to yell really loud. Lift the rafters. We've got the power. What kind of power? People power. Let's go. Who's got the power? We got power! Okay, let's do one more time. Some people aren't sure. Take a deep old breath. Okay, let's go. Who's got the power? We got power! What kind of power? People power! So are we going to use our people power? Are we going to go out there and organize and talk to people and get more people to join us to stop the hate? What do we say? ¿Se puede o no se puede? Sí se puede! Okay, let's do it in English. What do we say? Yes, we can. Okay, yes, we can. Okay, let's do it all together with an organized time type. We'll say, yes, we can, and si se puede in Spanish. We'll do it in English first and then in Spanish. Okay, let's go. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Si se puede. 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 Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready. I played a lot of football in my day, so I'm ready to. Thank Ms. Dolores, thank you for all your inspiring words. As I said, I hope that at 89 years old, I still have the spunk that you have and the desire to serve the community that you have. Next up, we're going to call upon Dr. Sue Kapoor, who has a pledge. I think it's been distributed through the audience. He's going to lead us through this pledge of stopping hate. Dr. Kapoor.
Peace to all of you. Can you hear me? Wonderful, thank you. It's a hard act to follow after the Lord's word. Very hard act. I will try my best. I am Professor Kapoor, Professor Emeritus from Fresno State, where I have taught for many decades. I have taught quantity at Fresno State for the last more than 30 years. We have been observing and celebrating Mahatma Gandhi's birthday on October 2nd, and our theme is as we stop the hate, stop the violence, and build a culture of peace and non-violence. If you stop something, you have to replace it with something like that. So our emphasis is not only to stop the hate and violence, but in its place, let us build a culture of peace and non-violence. Problem in our country is that we have a culture of violence actually that we have created. And how to turn it around is not going to be an easy thing. Rallies like this, gatherings like this, and all people actually need to actually work together because it's a huge problem that we are facing like that. I have a very pleasant duty to conduct this pledge of hate actually. I hope you got the flyer. Let me be very sure because you are going to repeat after me. Do you have this flyer? If not, I think the bank could give you, because I brought 100 copies. I hope that they do get to everyone like that. I know you have been sitting on the hard benches. Don't mind actually standing up again one more time for me. Please, stand. Thank you. And you need to repeat after me. I wish we had done it on the projector so that everybody could see it. Anyway, so if you listen and repeat after me, that will be fine. As we psychologists, the social workers, sociologists, they all have come to a conclusion that hate is a learned behavior. If it is a learned behavior, we can certainly unlearn it. And how that happens? Through education and awareness and through activities such as this, like that. Everyone has a responsibility to work hard to remove, eliminate hate actually in our culture like that. So please repeat after me. It's a very simple thing. Just listen carefully. On my honor, I pledge that hate has no place in my heart, in my spirit. Hate has no place in my home, in my work. Hate has no place in my school, in my community. Hate has no place in my house of worship, in my country. Hate crimes have no place in my future. Not in my life. No way. Thank you very much for taking this pledge. I hope that you have taken a pledge. Now you have practiced it. On the back of this flyer, there are beautiful quotes from various thinkers and philosophers. I hope you will take them right from Gandhi, Dr. King, Cesar Chavez, Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa, Pope Francis, and a sacred book of the Hindus like that. Please take this and duplicate these copies and distribute and share with others. Thank you very much. Let me give a hand to Mike and Pat and my friend Lina here for their leadership. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kapoor. So another hour has been long. Please, every time I think I've done perfectly, something always wakes me up to my humility. I was unaware that Chief Garza was supposed to do a presentation. And so I'm going to call him up now to do his presentation. And please accept my apologies.
Well, I'm not definitely the best at last, but I will do my best. So if I time it just correctly, I won't have some fireworks going off behind me. So it'll just kind of add to my presentation. No, but definitely I will try to keep this very short. I know it's been a very long evening for everybody. It's Friday. But again, my name is Joe Garza. It's actually Jose Garza, but the S is silent, so it's just Joe. It's a joke that works sometimes. It doesn't work all the time. But I've been here for the Reedley Police Department for the past 36 years and the Chief of Police for the past 12 years. And it's been my pleasure serving in that position for the past 12 years. I've had the opportunity of leading some fabulous men and women in this department and working for a community that I believe supports the police department 100%. And to the community of Reedley, I thank you for that. First of all, but before I would be remiss if I didn't thank the Alliance for allowing me to speak, thank the First Mennonite Church for allowing me to be here and to be part of this presentation. I really want to make it clear that the Reedley Police Department is here to serve you. I've always made it part of my introduction of my new officers to make sure that people understand that we are here to serve, never to be served. That is our role, is to serve our community. And I have taken pride over the past 36 years of being able to serve this community. But one of the things I really wanted to talk about, since we're talking about hate, and the doctor who just was up here talked about that whenever you have a word and you want to get rid of that word, you have to replace it with a word or with an action. And that action is peace. And so I really want to talk about restorative justice, the Reedley Peace Building Initiative that we have in our community. Restorative justice has been in our community for the past 13 years. This was something that we started back in 2010, and it has thrived in our community. It is an opportunity for us to bring an offender and a victim together in the same room and be able to get some closure to that case, to be able to get that offender to understand what they did and how that had an impact on the person that they did that to give that person an opportunity, that victim, that person who was offended, give them an opportunity to speak their mind. We have found in law enforcement, and I have to tell you, our criminal justice system is overburdened, and some may even say it's broken. And what has happened and what drove us to become a community of restoring peace, restoring justice back in our community was that problem. We in law enforcement had a significant impact in creating more problems within our community. What we used to do is we used to have our offenders. We took our offenders up to juvenile hall and we introduced them into that criminal justice system, whether it was just a minor crime. We were infusing them into the gang system. Because what was happening is our offenders were having to claim a gang, whether they were not in a gang or not, for their own safety. And so when they came out, they had that ingrained into them. And so what we did with restorative justice is we said, enough's enough. We need to take control of our own problem within our community. So that birthed restorative justice. And I want to thank Kings County Unified School District, Mr. Garza, who was the superintendent during the time we started this, and now Mr. Campbell, who's the superintendent. They both embraced restorative justice. Kings Canyon Unified School District embraces restorative justice. Our faith-based community embraces restorative justice. This police department, it is part of our culture. It is a part of our philosophy. Our new officers who come into our department, that's all they understand now is restorative justice. It's an opportunity for us to get to our youth, give them a second chance. They made a mistake. We get it. But give them a second chance to restore and become a vibrant part of our community. It's not easy. We should not, as a community, forget that person just because they've made a mistake. Give them opportunities. But I have to tell you, restorative justice alone is not going to cure the problem that we have in our communities. In order to cure the problem in our communities, it starts in our home. We have to bring love back into our homes. That is the part that we are missing. That is why kids reach out and become part of and commit crimes. It's because they are lacking the love at home. They're lacking the mentorship. They're lacking that ability to be able to have a loving family. So we encourage that. We want to bring love back into our community. Now I have to tell you, that's a hard word in law enforcement for someone to say is love. But it is not that hard. We can say it very easily. We have to believe it. It has to be in our hearts, and it has to be within our community. So restorative justice is alive and well in your community. We want to try to push this restorative justice out to other communities. And they have come and talked to us, but one of the problems that they always have is they don't have a relationship with your school district. They don't have a relationship with your faith-based communities. They do not have a relationship with the people who make the decisions within your community, your politicians, your city council members. I have to point to my boss, Nicole Ziva, who's sitting right over there. I have to tell you that she is the biggest champion for restorative justice that you will ever find. And without her, it would not be successful. So thank you, boss. So please, ladies and gentlemen, I would encourage you, if you do not know about restorative justice, if you're not from Reedley and you want to know what restorative justice is about, don't hesitate. Please reach out. We will be happy to come and talk to your organization. We will be happy to come talk to your police department, school districts, and let them know the successes. I will leave you with this one statistic, or a couple of statistics. Since we started restorative justice, we have had over 500 mediations. 500 mediation. This accounts for over 500 offenders and over 500 victims. And of those 500 mediations that we've had, we've only had 5% of our offenders reoffend. They have found the cure. They know what it is that they need to do. That is a statistic that I can tell you that no one can really come close to meeting. So I encourage you to invest in restorative justice. I encourage you to take part in restorative justice because it takes all of us as a community to make it happen. This is our community. Let's take it back. Thank you very much for your time.
justice trainer, I know how powerful that process can be when it's done correctly. Again, Chief, my apologies for the oversight. So we've given you a lot of information tonight. You guys, some of you are probably wondering, okay, what's next? What do we do with all this stuff? And so right now, Pam and Linda is going to give you your marching orders for the next step. Okay, Pam and Linda?
Thank you, Darren. Thank you for being wonderful. Let's see. My name is Pamela. I'm with the Community Alliance, and just really glad to see everybody here. I know everybody's been sitting for a long time, so we're going to do this really fast, okay? I promise. A couple things we're going to talk about some things that we're going to be doing through our Stop the Hate campaign. The Community Alliance is going to be doing. Linda is going to be talking about some things that are going to be done to defend Joaquin Valley and the name change. And then the most important thing of all is that Jonathan is going to be doing a raffle when we're done. Okay, he's got your names in a hat, and he's going to read off the names of people that are going to win the raffles. Okay, so real quick. We did get funded for the next year. As Darren said, we did have 4. This is our final town hall, and Reedley has been wonderful and amazing. We're going to be doing next year, we're going to be doing several things. One is we're going to do skills workshops to teach people specific skills that they can use to fight hate. One of which is how to intervene if you're a third-party witness of a hate incident going on, how you can safely and effectively intervene. Does that sound good? Yeah. Great. And the other thing we're going to be doing is really pushing people to report. Because as law enforcement says, they need those reports in order for them to do their job to keep us safe. So we're going to do that to make sure, and we know some people find that scary, but we're going to work on that. And we're also going to do campaigns. We're going to do like a Stop the Hate, Not in My Town. We're going to ask city councils and school districts to pass resolutions to stop the hate. We're going to have like Stop the Hate bumper stickers and Stop the Hate yard signs and whatever else we can think of. So, I really feel good knowing that some of the residents in this area are now residents in the federal penitentiary. I'm really pretty happy about that. Some of them went to the DC and, the Proud Boys, which are very native to our area here. So, we just need to make sure that people understand that actions have consequences. And so I'm really heartened by that. And I'm going to turn it over now to Linda. She's going to talk about how we can deal with some people who are elected officials that are kind of hateful. Okay.
Thank you, Pam. My name is Linda Tubach. I'm a member of Residents for Renaming S Valley, and I'm also a member of the Fresno Homeless Union and an advocate for the unhoused. With respect to Yokuts Valley, we would really appreciate it if you would sign our petition, which is coming around if you haven't signed it yet. This petition is directed to the Fresno County Board of Supervisors, who have decided to sue to stop the renaming of our community, which has already been renamed Yokuts Valley. So that's one thing. Secondly, we also want the FBI and local police departments to aggressively investigate all cases of missing and murdered indigenous women and men. With respect to the issue of the unhoused in our community, first, a brief moment of silence for Giselle Tellez, who died in the orchard adjacent to Rite Aid here in Reedley. So, thank you. In terms of addressing this issue locally, we would like to see all of us write and lobby the Board of Supervisors
as well as Reedley City Council for more direct services in the community, such as outreach, social services, shelters, housing, cooling centers in Reedley are urgently needed. It's going to be, as you can see, very hot this summer. You can also, as individuals, provide direct aid to the unhoused, cold water in the summer. Supplies such as tarps, tents, sleeping bags, and hygiene kits are desperately needed. And finally, please try to find and locate the encampments here in our area. You can find them often in orchards, draining ponds, near canals. Probably know where these places are, but if you don't, please look for these places and reach out to our unhoused sisters and brothers. They really appreciate our support, and it's something that we can all do as individuals as well. Thank you.